me make sure everything is working. Yeah, it looks everything looks good. I can't hear myself right now. That's the only problem. Oh, this is so annoying. I literally just ordered new headphones before I went live because I couldn't get them to work. But dude, I swear these headphones are like probably 10 years old, and I just found them in my house. And the only reason I'm using them is because I don't have like actual wired headphones. But yeah, probably gonna do a quick stream today. Um, I don't know. I feel like I showed up late, but today we're gonna talk about Osho. We're gonna talk about Alan Watts. The thing about the Osho part of this video is I don't know if it's gonna work. Um, I know you can't have it in a replay of a video. I know it's like a copyright claim instantly, but I don't know if it affects things before. But we could probably actually, you know what I can do? I can get like a documentary on Osho, and that might be better. We'll start with Alan Watts.
Game, according to the Hindu view, is the game of hide and seek. Or you might call it the game of lost and found. Or again, now you see it, now you don't. In examining the nature of vibration, we find a very peculiar thing. If you
It's too slow for me. It's bad. Once you like start watching videos at fast speeds, you can't go back after. It's like maybe it just shows how bad my attention span is sometimes, but just speeds a lot of unnecessary stuff up.
present vibration as a wave motion, you will notice that there is no such manifestation as half a wave. We do not find in nature crests without troughs or troughs without crests. No sound is produced unless
It's no good without bad. There's no ups without downs. That's what he's about to say. It's the balance, it's the flow that makes everything experiencing. And I feel like I say this a lot, but what would be a life if you were having fun at all times? What would be the point of things if you didn't experience any setbacks? It's the setbacks that make the triumphs more worthwhile.
there is both. Both the beat, as it were, and the interval between. Now, this wave phenomenon is happening on ever so many scales. There is the very, very fast wave of light, the slower wave of sound. Then there are all sorts of other wave processes. The beat.
I feel like we were talking the other night about everything's in flux, everything is moving. Heraclitus says you can never step in the same river twice. And this is this idea that everything is in movement, everything is actively either becoming something or turning into something new. It's being created or it's decaying. And, we try to hold on to these ideas of beauty. We try to hold on to these ideas of youth. We try to hold on to these ideas of wealth or, any sort of metric that you can measure yourself in this world. And the truth is, the more you cling to these ideals, the more you miss the point of things. The point of things is to accept the change. The point of things is to go with these changes and experience every aspect of the peaks and the valleys.
Beat of the heart, the rhythm of the breath, waking and sleeping, the peak of human life from birth to maturity and down again to death. And the slower the wave goes, the more difficult it is to see that the crest and the trough are inseparable. So that we become persuaded in the game of hide and seek that it is possible for the trough to go down and down and down forever and never rise.
Even if it is going down and it seems like it's forever, that means that the you know opposite is going to be the same. Like everything ebbs and flows, everything goes up and down. So if you've been experiencing a lot of down recently, things are about to get really, 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 really good.
rise again into a crest. Forgetting that trough implies crest, just as crest implies trough. There is no such thing, you see.
I think it's a King Solomon story, but like there's a story where someone asks to go find something that will make a happy man sad and a sad man happy. And the guy brings back a ring, and the ring says, "This too shall pass." And that's the idea that when you're the happiest, you're about to experience sadness, and when you're sad, you're about to experience happiness.
See, as pure sound, sound is sound silence, light is light darkness, light is pulsation, and between every light pulse there's the dark pulse. And so the Hindu image is that the self eternally plays a game of hide and seek with itself. Hindus calculate time in kalpa units, and the kalpa is 4,320,000 years. And so they say that for a period of a kalpa, the worlds are manifested, or any particular universe, not all universes, but let's say any particular galaxy or whatever it may be, world order of some kind. Don't take this too literally. Don't take these figures as being some sort of divine revelation as to making predictions and prophecies. They're symbolic figures. So for one kalpa, the world is manifested, and that period is called in Sanskrit a manvantara.
Not sure what he's getting at right here.
And during that time, the Brahman plays hide. And he hides, it hides in all of us, pretending that it's us. And then at the end of the kalpa, there comes the period called...
So he's saying that we're experiencing a period of darkness, and we're hiding from the true fact that we're all this great spirit, this great force.
pralaya. And that also is a kalpa long. And in that period, the Brahman, as it were, comes out of the act and returns to itself in peace and bliss. This is a very logical idea. What would you do if you were God? Isn't the whole fun of things, as every child knows?
I think if you ask yourself that question a lot, like what would you do? I don't know if it's necessarily the right way to phrase it, because I feel like people are weird. They cling on to words and they don't like the meaning of certain words. They don't like to hear certain words. So like when you say, what would you do if you're God? Say, what would you do if you had no constraints? What would you do if you were free to do everything? And I feel like a lot of people can find a lot of inspiration in that idea, because whatever you say with that, you should start aligning yourself with decisions that line you up with that. Like, what would you do in your ideal scenario? What would you be working towards? Would you be a new profession? Would you be in a new place in the world? Would you be doing something completely different? Would you have a family? Would you have a different kind of car? Would you have pets? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, what is your idealized version of yourself? And why don't you start thinking of ways to get to that? It's very weird that we don't ask ourselves these questions. It's very weird that we base our worldview, we base our perspective, what we view as success based off of what other people tell us. Like, if you don't have this job, if you don't have this type of salary, if you don't have this car, if you don't have this big of a house by this age, then you're a failure. But the truth is, like, you're a failure only if you fall short of your ideal. You're a failure if you fall short and become someone else. That's it. If you become yourself, then what else could you ask of? What else could you ask for? If you become who you really want to be, then why does it matter what anyone else says?
To go on adventures, to make believe, to create illusions, that is to say, patterns. And so, for some ways of talking in Hindu thought, this world is the dream of the Godhead. The Godhead is, of course, represented as in a way two-faced. With one face, he dreams.
The Gnostics call it a Godhead as well.
And is absorbed in the dream world. With the other face, he is liberated. In other words, what you have to understand correctly is that from the standpoint of the self, the supreme self, the pralaya and the manvantara are simultaneous. But put into mythological form, for human consumption, they are represented as being in sequence, following each other. But they really happen at the same time.
Good and bad happen at the same time, is what he just said. Right and wrong. It's the idea of the objective observer determines its meaning, determines its value. Um, think of if you had a deal with someone and you got the better end of the deal. That was a great deal for you, but it was a horrible deal for them. So it's both good and bad at the same time. That's what he's talking about. And it's all in the eyes of perception because let's say you got a job. That's great. That's great news. But it's also bad news because there's probably a better job out there. There's probably a job more aligned with what you really wanted to do with, you know, a better salary. Maybe it has better, flexibility. Maybe it's closer to home. Like there's probably a better scenario out there for you, but you closed the door to that opportunity because you took another one. And it's that idea that like there's compensation in everything. There's good and bad. There's equal opportunity, equal detriment in every single thing. Emerson had a great idea where he says there's never been an attribute in a man, like a virtue in a man, that wasn't both his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. And what this means is the thing that made Alexander the Great conquer the whole known world, his ambition, was both the thing that led him to conquer the world and the thing that led to his downfall. Because without Alexander's ambition, he never would have went out there and took over all these lands. But without Alexander's ambition, he never would have said, I want more after conquering the whole world and basically getting killed. Like his soldiers wanted to turn back, he wanted to keep going. And guess what happened? He got poisoned. It's like it's very simple to see these ideas in practice, and it's very simple to see that like, going too headlong into one direction is always the worst possible thing and not putting in things in perspective, not pumping the brakes on a certain level of achievement because I mean, the truth about it is like, think about people that day trade. People that day trade, it's not that they can't make money, it's that they get too aggressive. Because if you're a smart day trader, you can day trade for the rest of your life, make a few $100s, a few grand every single day. You don't have to do anything. But they get greedy. They have one big win, and instead of living off that for a few weeks, they're like, you know what? I got this win. Now I can do this. Now I can do this. Now I can do this. It's like understanding that your success today doesn't equate in your success tomorrow. It's these ideas.
So that one doesn't realize union with the self after death, later than a certain time. All references to the hereafter should correctly be understood as the herein, as a domain deeper than egocentric consciousness. That is to say, when you get down to the bottom of the egocentric consciousness, you get to its limit, which is figuratively its death. Then you go on inwards, the self deeper than the conscious attention. And in that way, you go inwards to eternity. You don't go onwards to it.
You go inwards to eternity. You don't go outwards to eternity. So what he's saying here is very significant. Anything you can seek externally is fleeting. Any amount of money, any achievement, any goal, that doesn't mean anything. But the experiences you have, the love that you feel for your loved ones, that echoes into eternity. Think if you inspire one person, then that person inspires the next generation, and then the next generation, and then the next generation. I really just described karma to you very simply, but this is the idea. Everything that you do echoes into eternity in some small way. And when we allow good to be part of our inner world, then we allow the world to become better through us. And it's embracing this fact. It's getting past all of these external things that we need. It's getting past all these external things that we're seeking and really seek what we really want. It's the internal desires. It's the internal things. It's the things that we want to prove to ourselves. Like, I mean, think of people that um have everything but still want more. What is that? That's simply just you looking in the mirror and thinking about how your value, the way you view yourself, is directly related to how others view you. If people don't respect you to this degree, then you don't even like yourself. You can't look yourself in the mirror. You're ashamed of who you are. And what you're really looking for is you're looking for the love that you think other people are giving you. You need to respect yourself. It's not about what others think about you, but it's really like the most obsessive form of projection that there is in this world.
Eternity. To go onwards is to find only time and time and time, more time and more time. in which things go round and round and round forever. But to go in is to go to eternity. But in the ordinary way, when we're talking about this graphically and vividly, in imagistic terms, we can talk about the everlasting game of hide and seek, which the self plays with itself. It forgets who it is and then creeps up behind itself and says, "Moo!" And that's a great thrill.
Okay, so think about this as in like you've made certain decisions for the sake of comfort. You've done certain things because of anxiety that you're not going to be able to eat, the anxiety that you're not going to be respected, the social norms that you've tried to take a hold of. And then every so often you have this moment where you have like a moment of clarity where everything kind of falls into place and it gives you just enough hope to keep going. It gives you just enough satisfaction to keep going. This is what he's talking about. A good example would be like when you're surrounded with friends and you don't have any stress in the world, where everything kind of seems to fade into the background and you could just sit there and be happy with the thing that's going on right now. You don't need anything more, you don't need anything else. And that's true alignment with yourself. And um, the entire trap of this modern day world is that we give away ourselves freely for the sake of something we don't need, for the sake of something that takes us away from who we truly are. Because you can have everything, but if you don't have yourself, what's the point?
It pretends that things are getting serious, just as a great actor on the stage. Although the audience know that what they're seeing is only a play, the skill of the actor is to take the audience in and have them all sitting in anxiety on the edges of their seats, or to be weeping or laughing, or utterly involved in what they really know is only a play. So you would imagine that if there were a very great actor with absolutely superb technique, he would take himself in.
That's what you're doing with yourself. You're creating this reality that this is who you are, that you're somebody that has this political affiliation, that you're someone that has this religious affiliation, that you're someone with this job title, that you're someone with this level of respect, that you're someone with this level of finances, with this house, with this car, in this relationship. Like you're allowing what you have physically to determine who you are spiritually. And that's one of the biggest traps we all fall into because I mean, the simple fact that we have dreams should show us that we're so much deeper than just material individuals. I mean, the depths of your dreams, the depths of the symbols, the depths of the understanding that you can piece from your dreams should show that there's something beyond our comprehension. There's something that will never be explored. There's something that can never be understood. And it's when we allow ourselves to be open and receptive to this voice where we can get the greatest ideas of enlightenment, the greatest ideas of fulfillment.
And he, you see, would feel that the play was real. Well, that's their idea of what we're doing here and now. We are all the Brahman, acting our own parts, being human, playing the human game so beautifully that he is enchanted. Do you see what enchanted means? Under the influence of a chant, hypnotized, spellbound, fascinated, and that fascination is Maya.
Okay, I might instantly get copyrighted here. Actually, no, what we'll do. We'll watch a short so that it's not maybe easier for me to. I don't know if get away with this.
I have talked to you that in English there is no word which can translate dhyan. There are three words. First is concentration, which is the lowest. It means focusing your mind on one thing or one thought.
I think we have the wrong idea of concentration. When we think of concentration, we could still have all these distractions around us, and we could still be, when someone texts you on your phone, someone, emails you, you check it. Like pure concentration is only fixating on that one idea. And this is what he's getting at. He's getting at there's a deeper spiritual implication of this idea. There's a deeper spiritual meaning behind this. And we should value that instead of whatever other stimulus we're looking for.
It is useful in science. In fact, without concentration, there will be no science at all. Science is the byproduct of concentration. The second word in English is contemplation, which is higher than concentration. Contemplation means thinking about a certain subject matter, not a single thought, but a stream of a certain subject matter, confined to the same subject matter. For example, somebody is thinking about light.
So you're fixated on a singular idea instead of just focused.
Then he goes on thinking about light, its speed, its division in 7 colors, and all its possibilities, the whole physics of light. Philosophy arises out of contemplation, just as science arises out of.
So science arises out of concentration, philosophy arises out of compl what do you say?
Concentration. And the third word in English is meditation, which is the highest.
Contemplation,
But still, it is
meditation.
not an equivalent to dhyana, or the Chinese Chan, or the Japanese Zen, which are different pronunciations of the Sanskrit word dhyana. Dhyana means no mind. In concentration, mind.
So that's the idea. No mind. No mind is the true form of meditation. That's what we should all be striving for. Um, think of meditation as the ability to persist beyond your normal thoughts. Like you get to a state where you're not even thinking about breathing, where you're not even thinking about thinking, where you just are. When you're in that state, that's pure relaxation. That's pure bliss. And the more you can do that each day, the more you're going to be obsessed with it. And it's truly one of the greatest things you can do for yourself, like especially in the stressful world, especially in a world where everything is pulling our attention in a million different directions. When you can find time each day to just relax and settle yourself in and get to a state where you can really fixate on the things that matter, fixate on the things that are important, fixate on the things that are in front of you, that's where you get the greatest life.
Concentrates. In contemplation, mind contemplates. In meditation, mind meditates. But in dhyan, mind simply disappears. Dhyan is a silence beyond the mind.
All these Osho videos are going to be copyrighted. Uh, I'll do another quick video before this looks like a pure AI video. 52 minutes, not going to make it through that.
Rajneesh was a master of controversy.
It's funny, he's like one of the only like spiritual gurus that like leaned into the controversy. You see like a lot of, I mean, Crowley did the same thing as well. It was just like so,
Because one's way was never the same as the others. Explored his own way, expounded his own path, never in conflict with the one before him or the ones before him. This is not something that a thinking mind, a logically correct mind, particularly a Western mind, could understand.
so what he's saying is that the path to enlightenment's different for everyone. And I think enlightenment's a bad word because people don't really understand what it truly means. Um, Buddha described this state of nirvana as the state of like you take a breath, like you finally got past everything, like all of your suffering is finally gone, and it's that like you can finally relax, like you're at something new and you broke through that barrier, you got to some place that's beyond what you previously were at. And I don't think the idea of enlightenment makes as much sense as the idea of living with the Tao. So like every single person has an idealized version of themselves. Every single person has like a way that if they lived every single moment of their lives, they'd be extremely, extremely happy. And this is what Osho's hinting at. Osho's hinting at like when we find this true path, when we find what works best for us, um, that's the way. That's the way that we become enlightened. That's the way that we transcend ego, we transcend ourselves.
How do all these people fit together? This is because there is no right and wrong.
Self-liberation, yeah, it's a good way to say it.
The question is only about, has it worked for you or not? If it has worked to evolve you into a higher state of being, it doesn't matter whether it's right for me or not.
That's the important part here. I feel like people nowadays want it to be my way or the highway, but if it makes you better, if it makes you happy, who am I to question it? That's something that we should embrace because I'm not you, you're not me. How could I ever tell you what's going to work? I can guide you in the right direction. I can tell you through my experience how I've come along, but in the end, I can't hold your hand through these things. I can't force you to do any of the work. I can't force you to look for any of the answers. They're just things you have to find for yourself. I know all of these ones are gonna. Okay, we probably watch this.
Are there any enlightened Australian sannyasins?
There are few.
Could you name them for us?
No, there,
Are there any on the ranch here that are
yes,
enlightened?
there are.
Would you be prepared to name any of them?
They will remain anonymous because it is dangerous. Others will start feeling jealous. Others will start feeling that they are superior and we are inferior. And I don't want to create any classes in sannyasins. All the ordinary people of the world, without exception, deep down believe they are extraordinary. They are not ordinary.
Everyone's ordinary. That's what he's about to say. He's about to say that he's an ordinary man, but he's just. I don't describe what he's about to say. Let's let him talk.
The thing that seems to come to mind to a lot of Australians I've spoken to who are untrue disciples is that you have the Rolls Royces and you have the watches, which are lovely, and you still claim you're ordinary, and they can't seem to understand at all.
You just
You say
wait.
ordinary.
You have not listened to my answer. I'm saying that the ordinary man believes deep down in his heart that he is not ordinary. He will drink only a goat's milk because that is the poorest milk, impotent, and he will be worshipped as a great saint. But his goat in those days used to eat cashew nuts, grapes.
I have no idea the point he's making. See, I like Osho's so hard for me to commentate on because it's just like I forget that I'm streaming. I forget that I'm like supposed to give a take on this. He's
Oranges.
so this guy, all of his books, they're literally just from interviews like this. And it's just so impressive because the way they flow, the way they connect, the way that they hit at these ideas are just so interesting.
Apples worth 10 rupees. In those days, 10 rupee was the salary of a schoolmaster for a whole month. And Gandhi's goat will eat 10 rupees worth food in one day. And this is saintly. One of Gandhi's most intimate disciples, Sarojini Naidu, is reported to have said that to keep Mahatma
You realize I'm playing this at 1.75 speed and he's still talking slow.
Gandhi poor, we have to waste fortunes. So I have a simple principle. Either a person has to love me or he has to hate me. I don't allow any other alternative because love and hate both are deep relationships.
Think about so I don't really want to give relationship advice right now, but think about it this way. When you break up with someone, it's the moment they stop caring about you is the moment it's over. If they still hate you, if they still have any sort of feelings towards you, then that relationship still has a spark. That relationship still has something there. It's a lot easier to turn hate into love than it is to turn indifference into anything.
Love can change into hate, hate can change into love. It is very simple.
It's like they're polar ends of the same feeling, the same emotion. Because hatred is the deepest feeling of disgust. Love is the deepest feeling of trust, of openness. I don't know if it's the best way to.
So I create controversies. Those controversies create divisions in people, people who are for me, people who are against me. But they both are unaware of one fact, that I have become the focus of their attention, of them both.
Like when they're not unaware of that, as a matter of fact, a lot of people say,
Think about it this way. When you harbor resentment to someone, then you're still giving them power over you. Even if you never see them again, even if they're never part of your life, the more you cling on to this hate, the more you cling on to this anger, you're actively getting in your own way. You're actively harboring emotions about someone that doesn't even think about you. And it really is one of the worst things you can do for yourself because you're sitting here dwelling in this anger, in this hate, in this emotion, in this fear, in all of these things, and you're plotting this person's downfall. Meanwhile, they're just going on with their life. And you're putting all of this focus into them. And it's like the best thing you can do if you dislike someone is move on. The best thing you can do if you hate someone is forgive them and keep going on with your life because it serves you nothing. I don't know why people will persist in ideas, people will persist in realities that don't serve them. It means nothing if you hate someone your entire life and you just try to get back at them. You try to get revenge. The only thing that means anything is if you move on from the genuine, wrong that they did from you. That you turn whatever experience into a learning lesson, that you allow it to never happen again. Because things will repeat until you fix them. You will get the same kind of person that is not good for you. You'll get the same kind of cheater. You'll get the same kind of person who doesn't respect your boundaries until you work on the thing that's in yourself. This is an idea of Jungian psychology. I don't know if it's part of his synchronicity idea, but like you get the same people in your life until you change yourself. And when you change yourself, then you get the right kind of people for you.
that you do the publicity like the Rolling Stones used to do it, and they say any publicity is good publicity, and they believe it's a publicity stunt for you to get them in.
That's perfectly right.
Thank you.
Publicity is perfectly right. The sun rising early in the morning does publicity. All over the world. Stars in the night do publicity.
He's just like so funny for no reason. I don't know if it's just me, but like I'll be watching these videos and I'll just be like I'll just start cracking up and I'm like it's just like I never thought of this.
Moon and the full moon, they do publicity. Flowers spreading their fragrance into the wind, what they are doing? Publicity.
If any of them ever
I
make,
am also doing publicity.
if any of the stars or the sun or the moon or the flowers ever make a statement to the press, I hope I'm the first one to get the interview. But they haven't. Your publicity is more a verbal publicity. It's not something that comes up like the sun.
It cannot
I can't believe you just went human. That's crazy.
come like the sun. Not because of any incapacity on my side. It is because the sun cannot speak, cannot give an interview to
No.
the news media. Otherwise, the sun will do. He cannot speak. Poor fellow is just mute. What can I do about it? I'm not mute.
You win some, you lose some.
I will speak. Those who can understand my presence, they will understand my presence. Those who can understand my voice will understand my voice. Those who cannot understand anything, at least will understand
I'm just waiting for
hate,
this.
hostility towards me. But I am not going to leave a single word around the world, a single man who can ignore me.
So his whole belief system is the idea that don't believe in anything. When you can question anything, when you can break down your own beliefs, when you can get beyond your own ego, that's where all the answers lie. The answers are always indescribable, and it's only when we can get beyond our rationality, it's only when we can get beyond what we perceive to be true about the world and start breaking down these doors where the answers are behind those.
No, it seems not. As a matter of fact, I'm heading this story, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, madman or saviour.
That's good.
Which do you think you are?
It is groovy.
Are you a madman or a saviour, Bhagwan?
I'm a madman.
I had a feeling you'd say that.
I swear this is the funniest movie ever. It's just so like I don't know how to like describe this. I mean, it's hilarious. I feel like we've been spending a lot of time with Eastern philosophy recently. I'm gonna slow this down.
It's difficult to know much for certain about the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. Even his name can be a little confusing. It's also
Okay.
sometimes
People, so it's spelled different ways. All like Lao Tzu is not. You can spell it this way. You can spell it TSU. You can spell it Lao Tzu is the one I have, the Tao Te Ching I have, and nobody even knows if it's actually an individual or if it's a bunch of different individuals or um, whether the book, the Tao Te Ching, was written for a ruler, whether it was written for life. It's a very mysterious philosophy.
translated as Lao Tzu or Lao Tse. Lao Tzu is said to have been a record keeper in the court of the central Chinese Zhou dynasty in the 6th century BC and an older contemporary of Confucius. He may also have been entirely mythical, much like Homer in Western culture. Lao Tzu is said to have tired of life in the Zhou court as it grew increasingly morally corrupt, so he left and rode on a water buffalo to the western border of the Chinese Empire. Although he was dressed as a farmer, the border official recognized him and asked him to write down his wisdom. According to this legend, what Lao Tzu wrote became the sacred text known as the Tao Te
And again, nobody even knows if this story is correct. The origins of this book are very murky, but I think it literally adds to the point of the book. The book is that the true essence of things can never be recorded, but here's the attempts.
Te Ching. After writing this piece, Lao Tzu is said to have crossed the border and disappeared from history, perhaps to become a hermit. In reality, the Tao Te Ching is likely to be the compilation of the works of many authors over time, but stories about Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching itself passed down through different Chinese philosophical schools for over 2,000 years. Lao Tzu was the leading figure in the spiritual practice.
The interesting thing about Taoism, he calls it Taoism here. I know it's Taoism or Tao. Again, I've only read the words. The translation I have is Tao. The other translations are Tao, so it's sometimes difficult to um, say a word that you've only seen put on paper. But the interesting thing about Taoism is there's not such thing as like a Taoist monastery. There's not such thing as a Taoist um, haven. It's just Taoism is a way of life. It's not a way of worship. And it's very interesting because you'll see like other religions such as Buddhism, such as Christianity, such as Islam, such as Judaism. They all have some sort of worship. They all have some sort of ritualistic element to it, whereas Taoism is just a pure way of life. And if you live your life according to the Tao, if you live your life according to nature, then you don't need to worship because that act is worship enough. And I think that's a truly inspiring idea because to me, the weakest parts of religion is the rigidity of it, is the doctrinal version of it. I think the more you take the philosophy of religions, the more you take the moral context and the philosophical ideas and the metaphysical ideas, I think the prettier and the more poetic they become and the less fixated they become on power. And I think that's the true path, but again, that's his way.
Practice we now know as Taoism, which is more than 2,000 years old and still popular today. There are at least 20 million Taoists, and perhaps even 500 million living around the world now, especially in China and Taiwan. They practice meditation, chant scriptures, and worship a variety of gods and goddesses in temples. Taoists also make pilgrimages to 5 sacred mountains in eastern China in order to pray at the temples and absorb spiritual energy from these holy places, which are believed.
Yeah, that's not really the whole point of Taoism. It's weird that there's even a. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is some institutional form of it, but I don't think that's the true way either.
To be governed by immortals. Taoism is deeply intertwined with other branches of thought, like Confucianism and Buddhism. There is a story about the 3 great Asian spiritual leaders, Lao Tzu, Confucius, and Buddha.
All the Taoists used to make fun of Confucius. They would in their stories and their fables and their tales, like they would just make fun of Confucius because of how rigid his ideas were.
Meant to have tasted vinegar. Confucius found it sour, much like he found the world full of degenerate people. And Buddha found it bitter, much like he found the world to be full of suffering. But Lao Tzu found the world sweet. This is telling because Lao Tzu's philosophy tends to look at the apparent discord in the world and see an underlying harmony guided by something called the Tao. The Tao Te Ching, which describes the Tao, is somewhat like the Bible. It gives instructions, often vague and generally open to multiple interpretations.
It's pure poetry. The Tao Te Ching's like 40 pages, and it literally will not make sense the first time you read it. You will not get anything from it. And it's one of those texts where the more you spend with the more time you spend with people interpreting it, the more you can begin to grasp your own meaning, your own depth from it. And it's truly like a personal experience. It's not something that like I'll read it and I'll take something from it. You'll read it, you'll take something new from it. I think it's really unique in that aspect of things, and that's why it's such a cool thing to read.
On how to live a good life. It discusses the Tao as the way of the world, which is also the path to virtue, happiness, and harmony. The way isn't an inherently confusing or difficult thing, but in order to follow the Tao, we need to go beyond simply reading and thinking about it. Instead, we must learn flowing or effortless action. It's a sort of purposeful acceptance of the way of the Tao and living in harmony with it. This might seem lofty and bizarre, but most of Lao Tzu's suggestions are actually very simple. First, we ought to make more time for stillness. To the mind that is still, Lao Tzu said, the whole universe surrenders.
So this is people misinterpret this as pure meditation. It's not purely meditation, it's the idea of action without force. Because when you're doing something that you don't want to do, you're thinking the whole time, like, I just have to get through this, I just have to get through this. But when you're really having fun with something, when you're really invested with something, everything else kind of fades to the background and everything else kind of just disappears. And that's this idea. It's this idea that you can be in a meditative, like, trance state while you're living your life if you live it in a good enough manner. Um, I feel like we all have activities that we do that time just slips away and it feels like we've been doing it for 5 minutes, but it's been several hours. It's this idea. It's when we can surrender ourselves to the current moment, when we can surrender ourselves to the current activity.
We need to let go of our schedules, worries, and complex thoughts for a while and simply experience the world. We spend so much time rushing from one place to the next in life, but Lao Tzu reminds us nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. It's particularly important that we remember certain things, grieving, growing wiser, developing a new relationship, only happen on their own schedule, like the changing of leaves in the autumn or the blossoming of the bulbs we planted months ago. When we're still and patient, we also need to be open. The usefulness of a pot comes from its emptiness, Lao Tzu said. Empty yourself of everything, let your mind become still. If we're
The usefulness of a pot is when it's empty. That's the perfect way to put it.
too busy, too preoccupied with anxiety or ambition, we will miss 1,000 moments of human experience that are our natural inheritance. We need to be awake to the sounds of the birds in the morning, the way other people look when they're laughing, the feeling of wind against our face. These experiences reconnect us to parts of ourselves.
So I think a really good practice to do is start observing things, but really look. So like take a look at your view. Take a look at every single detail. Really, really look. You'll start to notice things that are out of place. You'll start to notice cracks in the wall, chips in the paint. You'll start to notice something that has always been there, but you never noticed it. It's the same thing when you go on a walk. Start to look at the trees. Start to look and really notice the shapes of the leaves, the animals around. Start to notice the patterns. Start to see how the wind flows through the branches and the leaves. Like we can all do activities like this that are going to give us this idea of presence, this idea that um, there's more to what we're experiencing. And the real hack of this is the more that you can fix it on the current moment, the less the problems you have are going to bother you. Most of the problems we have are completely fake. They're completely fabricated by our mind. And the more time you spend with the mind, the stronger the mind becomes, the stronger it will have a hold on your fear receptors, on your anxiety, on your stressors. And the less time you spend with it, the less time these things bother you. And the truth of it is, like, there's only a handful of problems that you really have. Everything else is just what you build up in your own head. Everything else can probably be solved within a few hours of work. And it's just us avoiding that work that gets in the way of whatever it is that we're trying to do, whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. And I think when we start looking at things in this manner, it really puts things in perspective and it really gives us a philosophy that we can use to make our lives better. Because that's the greatest thing about Taoism. Most philosophers destroy stuff and it doesn't replace it with a better system. It doesn't replace it with a better way of life. I mean, you read Nietzsche, his own system didn't work for him. You read Schopenhauer, the guy died alone and people referred to his dog as Mrs. Schopenhauer. Like Like there's certain realities of philosophers, or certain realities of these people that like they don't always live the happiest lives, where it seems that Lao Tzu was fulfilled, that it seems that his life and his way of living was one that could provide you happiness. It's the same thing with Emerson. That's why I find Emerson to be the most impressive philosopher, because not only is his stuff so poetic, not only is he so profound that he hits at realities that you've always known but you can never put words to, but it's the sense that Emerson is deeply happy, the sense that Emerson is deeply fulfilled, because there's a certain element of like, why am I going to start thinking these thoughts if they're going to depress me? Why am I going to start accepting these realities if they don't do me any good? And you never get the sense through Taoism that there's not a good path, that there's not a path of wholeness, and that's really, really, really the best part of the
Selves. This is another key
philosophy of
point of Lao
religion
Tzu's
that they're
writing.
going to follow.
We need to be in touch with our real, deeper selves.
Technically, Taoism is not a religion. Technically, it's a philosophy because it doesn't have a god, but it could be considered a god in a sense, because what the Tao is the Tao is everything. The Tao is the connectivity, the order, the chaos. It's everything and nothing. It's in the nothingness and it touches everything. And you could see that as a god. You could see that as an omnipotent force, but it's not. It's conscious, but it's not conscious. So it's like, is that an entity? Is that something that we think controls things, or is it just the order and the way of things? Is it just entropy? Is it just time? And that's where the disconnect comes from if it's a philosophy or religion. I mean, I don't really care what you consider it. It's just an interesting idea.
Spend a great deal of time worrying about who we ought to become, but we should instead take time to be who we already are at heart. We might rediscover a generous impulse or a playful side we've forgotten, or simply an old affection for long walks. Our ego is often in the way of our true self, which must be found by being receptive to the outside world rather than focusing on some critical, too ambitious internal image. When I let go of who I am, Lao Tzu wrote, I become what I might be.
When I let go of who I am, I become what I might be. This is something that if you live by, you can do it. Everything that you see around you is an accumulation of who you believe yourself to be. Every decision you make is based off of everything that people have told you. Every single instance of your life is controlled by everything that you've had happen up until now. The only moment when you can become what you really want to be is when you drop all of these things. When you decide to take a new path, when you decide to break the mold, when you decide to break the actions and the decisions that you've made in the past and forge your own way. It's
Nature is
almost like Neville
particularly useful
Goddard
for
said,
helping us to
because
find ourselves. Lao Tzu liked to compare different parts of nature to different virtues. He said, the best people are like water, which benefits all things and does not compete with them. It stays in lowly places that others reject. That is why it's so similar to the Tao. Each part of nature can remind us of a quality we admire and should cultivate ourselves. The strength of the mountains, the resilience of trees, the cheerfulness of flowers. Of course, there are issues that must be addressed by action, and there are times for ambition. Yet Lao Tzu's work is important for Taoists and non-Taoists alike, especially in a modern world distracted by technology and focused on what seem to be constant, sudden and severe changes. His words serve as a reminder
again, I feel like we've gone over Taoism a lot, but I think it's really an idea that should be pondered by everyone.
of the importance of stillness, openness, and discovering buried yet central parts of ourselves.
If you really study Taoism, if you really understand these ideas, it's basically a blueprint for creative mastery. That's one thing a lot of people don't get. Like the true way to be creative is to empty your head, to act out of pure intuition. Intuition doesn't come from the mind. Intuition comes from the soul. It comes from the spirit. And when we can drop every assumption, when we can drop everything, when we can just allow ourselves to be open, that's where the greatest discoveries come from. I actually have to go right now, so I'm gonna end the stream. I might stream again later if I have time. I probably won't, but I'll stream again tomorrow, probably at a similar time. Love you guys so much. Thank you guys. I'll catch you next one.